and what actually causes inflammation in the body, and the organisms that orchestrate that inflammation, that are behind inflammatory, chronic inflammation, right? Like there's two types of inflammation. You bang your knee, you trip, you fall, you bang something, and you have like, you have like blood rushing to the side, blood clots and whatever, and it's going to heal. Like that's one form of inflammation, right? That's not chronic though. What most people are dealing with, like arthritic conditions, atherosclerotic conditions, osteoporotic conditions, bone mineral densities, joint issues, immobility issues, organ inflammation, brain inflammation, neurological inflammation. That is all a byproduct of specific organisms that hide behind shells of calcium that accumulate in localized portions of the body. Does that make sense? We all heard about calcification. Has anyone here not heard of calcification? Okay, wow, so it's getting out there, right? There's different theories on it. But the main point I'm driving in this instance is that we all thought that calcium was the primary mineral for building our bones, for all kinds of things. Like, that's why the whole dairy industry is just like supplemented us with all this calcium, which is hilariously sad and ironic in so many ways, because if you do the statistics on the populations that consume the most dairy, guess what else they have the highest incidences of? Cardiovascular disease and osteoporosis. People that drink the most amount of milk, specifically cow's milk and glow in the dark and pasteurized and that whole story, right? They have the highest incidences of bone mineral deficiencies and breakdowns. There, let me throw up an image too. The neotenized human image, like that. I think we're starting to move into that segment. By the way, anytime I do a lecture, it's just we're just going for a ride in consciousness. It's kind of like I was really influenced by Terence McKenna, and like my friend David Wolf, who I imagine is like the nutritional version of him. I was really influenced by this like holographic way of giving lectures, instead of like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, like, no, it's like, it's actually like it's a dynamic flow in consciousness that we're unfolding. And so that's how I like to do these things. Is it
these guys?
Oh,
which images?
No, let's move past this for now. This is well, just real quick, I'll point out what this is. This is basically a spinal column, an MRI of a spinal column that's calcified. So you see these little white splotches along like the vertebrae or the bone, the skeletal structure there. That is calcium that's been cemented on the ridges of that spinal column or the spinal cord, right? This is an interesting thing right here. Let's look at this. Everyone can relate to this. So when you are first incarnated onto this planet, right, as a little juicy little levitational baby, very interesting thing is that you're super like juicy, like you have all this life force, right? Your skin is supple, it's moist, you're hydrated, you just came out of the sterilized waters of your mother's womb, and now you are birthed into an unsterile environment called the outer atmosphere, which is totally unnatural for a human being. If you look at like disease and you look at how the acceleration of disease, all disease basically is rooted from some kind of organism, some kind of pathogenic organism we call a virus, a bacteria, in the case of calcification, nanobacterium, that form calcium shells and accumulate heavy metals like cadmium, lead, uranium, strontium, radioactive metals, nickel, tin, right? All that kind of thing, inorganic iron, and pesticides and whatever else, weird material, they create a fortress with that material. Now when I say that, people are like, I know what people are thinking, they're like, no, that's totally sci-fi. It's not, what? Not what? What are you talking about? It's not real. It's like, no, actually, if you start to actually observe the situation, not let alone do actual research on it, you find out that these organisms are hyper intelligent. And they basically act as nature's recycling mechanism. Right? Nature's recycling mechanism. What's going to take out a human being over the duration of their life? Or a turtle, or an eagle, or a whale, or like these legendary creatures, these longevity creatures that, something is going to take them out. Their biological clock is going to stop ticking at some point, right? It's usually, especially when you look at like turtles, you look at especially domesticated animals, human caretaken animals that take on the same diseases of the humans, right? You start to see what's one of the main things that happens is chronic arthritic conditions. What a weird idea that is, by the way. Like a deer in nature. Like a deer hobbling around and like has arthritis. What is that about? Right? You see like the common sense of the whole situation? So what ends up happening is that these organisms find their little crevices in the body, typically an area in the body that's non-vascularized. Non-vascularized, really cool term, really important term, basically means it doesn't have any blood flow. So like your joints, right? Where's arthritis show up? Where's the little like bumps and the like stuff show up in the joint capsules? Yeah. Right? Where there's a little bit of blood flow. You know what else can't get to those areas of the body? Is immune cells. Because your white blood cells have to travel through a blood to get to where they're going. So these little organisms essentially create their fortresses, and the immune system is like, it can't really, what? It can't target it. It doesn't know where it's at. Lyme's disease is another interesting one. I just want a little segue on that and then I'll move on. Lyme's disease is fascinating because basically what Lyme's is, long-term chronic Lyme's, is basically what's called a biofilm infection. Biofilm infection. What's that? That's basically a type of bacteria. In the case of Lyme's, it's called a Borrelia bacteria, or subsets of that Borrelia. It's not just one thing, as we come to find out. They all congregate together. They catalog themselves in one spot of the body, and they all, like viruses, bacteria, all these things start to get together. Fungi, candida, they all start to meet up, and they're like, look, this is great. We can all work together and shift the pH of the blood to more of an acidic medium that supports their survival, but breaks us down at the seams, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So like Lyme's disease essentially is the byproduct of a type of bacteria that has created a biofilm infrastructure that, again, like calcification, the immune system can't get through. So you have to use really powerful enzymes among other modalities to break down that structure, right? And then after you do that, or while you're doing that, you supplement with things like medicinal mushrooms, like reishi mushroom, chaga mushroom, maitake, cordyceps, trametes, turkey tail, all that stuff, right? That whole class right there of mushrooms is very powerful for reprogramming the hardware of your immune system. And just to drive that point one more step further, because I'm really on this one, the whole medicinal mushroom thing to me is like, it's mind-blowing how it shows up and how important it is to the human race right now. Is specifically like chaga and reishi, they have certain what's called polysaccharides. And these polysaccharides are essential sugars that basically inform the immune system on how to work better. Awesome. They basically educate your white blood cells on how to be more efficient, right? And what researchers have found out is that our human immune cells have specific receptor sites that are identical to the molecule or the molecular structure in those mushroom beta-glucans. Everyone get that part? I'm going to say that one more time. Let me rephrase that. Our immune system, built into our immune hardware, has specific receptors for mushroom immune support molecules. So that basically says that in order to be truly fortified, in order to be truly our most vigorous, vibrant, and strong version of ourselves, the strongest version of ourselves health-wise, we actually need to be eating medicinal mushrooms. That's what that says to me. That's how I took it. I'm like, cool, great. And I'll tell you this right now. The last 5, 6, 7 years, I've been on medicinal mushrooms hard. Like, it's one thing, it's just an obvious thing for me, no matter what's going on, because there's no contraindication, right? It's not like garlic. It's not like dandelion or milk thistle or echinacea or something like that, right? Olive leaf extract, where like, if I do too much, it's like, whoa! Like, whoa, okay, it's like there's social repercussions for too much garlic, like there's immune problems, there's potential autoimmune issues if you do too much of that stuff, because those things stimulate your immune system unidirectionally. It only works one way. What the medicinal mushrooms do is they're adaptogens, or immune modulators, where they balance your immune function. So someone has like a hyperactive immune system, where their immune system essentially is an autoimmune condition. It's hyperstimulated, right? And they're prescribing immune suppressant medication. You may have heard of this. You may be a recipient of this kind of thing. Well, the immune modulators, like the medicinal mushrooms, actually normalize, they modulate and bring your immune system back into normality and make it more efficient to target these little critters in the body. So once you break down those hard layers, then the immune system now has more intelligence, it has more of a immunological artillery, to start going through and start boom, 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 neutering these things, neutralizing them, stopping them from dividing and replicating. What's cancer?
Abnormality of the cell.
Right, it's like an abnormality of your cell, it's a mutated cell, right? I find this an interesting perspective, is that when you study like a lot of like the cancer therapies going on right now, one of the number one things for cancer going on right now by like Dr. Nick Gonzalez, who had a heart attack, in a series of 10 other alternative doctors that had heart attacks or were just shot in cold blood. And by the way, I can't go into it now, I don't want to, it's not part of this presentation. I got some really interesting information on that whole